Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. A $418 million settlement. This is a big settlement and it's gaining a lot of attention. I wanted to share it with you today as the VA and veterans are kind of intertwined into this now, and wanted to see what we can find out, what sort of nuggets we can pick out of this news article, and see if we can gauge where this is going and what sort of, we'll call it collateral damage, we as veterans or the veteran sphere will be facing with regard to this. So please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. And let's jump into it here. The two asks really are, look, hit the thumbs up, let the video run. Those are the two things that really help get the word out. Otherwise, YouTube just doesn't really push it out. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Jumping into it, the headline on the Housing Wire or housingwire.com is NAR wants VA to change rules that prohibit veteran buyers from paying broker commissions. So NAR is the National Association of Realtors, and they want the VA to change rules with regard to VA home loans, change those rules that prohibit veteran buyers, the buyer of real estate. So you're in a transaction, you're buying the property. There's rules that prohibit a buyer from paying broker commissions. Now, traditionally, the seller pays all of the fees. So just to throw that out there. So let's jump into this and see what's going on. There is a sub-headline, which is a little bit interesting as well. And it says VA, so Veterans Affairs, your VA home loan, VA borrowers will be at a significant disadvantage against traditional buyers in an environment with already limited inventory, NAR argues. So I will kind of say that sadly, VA home loan borrowers are already at a disadvantage because of misperceptions with regard to how the VA home loan works, and buyers and realtors who aren't fully even aware of how the VA loan process works thinks that it's going to be a difficult loan, a difficult transaction to close. And so there's other things you need to be working on other than allowing a VA home loan borrower to be able to pay for a commission fee. So before I even get into this article, what I see here just from the headlines is, if it's a limited inventory, there's not a lot of homes to buy, you're competing against other buyers, what can you do as a buyer to put yourself in the best position possible? Well, what this article is suggesting so far is allowing the buyer to pay what is traditionally paid for by the seller, some commissions to the brokers. So whether it's splitting the fee or taking on some of it or whatever it may be, the workaround on that would depend on if you have enough wiggle room in the purchase price where you could make the purchase price a little bit higher and buy it higher than what they're asking for. That kind of helps out a little bit because you're giving them a higher net. But in some cases, you may be maxed out. The appraisal might not appraise at that amount and so forth. So let's jump into it, the article here, and see what's going on. The National Association of Realtors, NAR, urged the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to revise its policies that ban veterans from paying broker commissions, an issue that is gaining attention following the NAR's landmark $418 million settlement. So earlier this month, the NAR announced the settlement of various lawsuits filed by home sellers, which allege that the real estate industry colluded to keep agent commissions artificially high at 5% to 6% of a home's sales price, that's been the traditional, right? Between 5 to 6%, you're talking 3% on the seller side, 3% on the buyer side. For a 6% combined total commission, which traditionally is paid for by the home seller. So moving on. With the settlement, NAR agreed to abolish its uh, participation rule that required listing agents to make an offer of compensation to buyer brokers. But the VA's current policies place veterans at a significant disadvantage compared to other buyers. NAR President Kevin Sears said in a letter submitted Wednesday to John Bell, Executive Director of VA's Loan Guarantee Service. The VA rule states that a borrower using a VA loan cannot pay fees or commissions to a real estate agent unless determined by the Undersecretary for Benefits as appropriate for inclusion as proper local variances. The current policy will put VA buyers on the sidelines, especially in a market with already tight inventory, Sears pointed out. In situations where no offer of compensation is offered from a seller, VA buyers are immediately at a disadvantage, potentially forcing them to forego professional representation, lose a property in an already limited inventory, choose a different loan product, or exit the market entirely, Sears wrote. The VA didn't immediately respond to Housing Wire's request for a comment. NAR's letter follows a similar message sent by the Community Home Lenders of America, the CHLA, to the VA earlier this week. In a letter submitted to Bell on Monday, the CHLA called on the VA to expedite regulatory change that would allow veterans and active duty service members to fund buyer broker commissions when purchasing a home with a VA home mortgage. So what this is so far shaping up to is, instead of the seller, you're selling your home, you have a listing agent. That listing agent comes to you and says, hey, we need to list your home. We're going to put in there 2.5% commission to me for selling your home, but then we're also going to put in there a 3% for the buyer's agent. And because of that, that's where this lawsuit's coming into play, where they're saying, hey, the selling agent is determining this total price for something that it hasn't even happened yet, and there's no other agent even involved yet. Why does it need to be a 3? Why does it need to be a 2.5 to the buyer's agent? So now it's looking as though the buyer's agents may start to negotiate their own fees and potentially charge the buyer the fee for the property purchase. So let's move on here. Let's see. So an official from the VA previously told Housing Wire that the department is working closely with the Department of Justice to determine any potential implications for veteran borrowers and is committed to ensuring that veterans are neither disadvantaged in the home buying process nor overcharged. VA is actively engaged with the Department of Justice to review the potential implications and evaluate how VA can best ensure that VA's home loan program remains an attractive option for veterans in the home buying process, the official said on Monday. Concerns over the existing VA policies have been echoed among mortgage professionals. VA borrowers will be the hardest hit if they have to shoulder buyer side commissions, said John Overfelt, Director of Sales and Principal at American Security Mortgage Corporation. So, again, this is pointing to, you want to buy a house? Well, now you got to pay the buyer commission, which again was traditionally paid for by the seller. So, moving on here, VA loans are probably the best loans on the market. They're 100% financing, they don't require a down payment, and the guidelines are tilted toward helping the borrower get in the home, Overfelt said. I'll also throw in there that not only are they 100%, the rates are typically in line with conventional loans, and there's no mortgage insurance like an FHA loan, as well as an eliminated funding fee if you are a disabled veteran at any percentage. So moving on here, I would hope something would come of that because these people fought for our country, right? They've earned the right to have that VA loan, he added. If cooperative compensation is banned, the VA must weigh in to develop or accept a mechanism for VA borrowers and how to pay the buyer's agent's commission, said Ryan Grant, co-founder and division president of Neo Home Loans. And that concludes it. So looks like there's a very high probability that the real estate industry is in a major shift, and the traditional mindset of the seller is going to pay for the commissions is starting to look a little bit like it's going to dissolve, and the seller will pay the seller's representative, the listing agent's commission, and the buyer will pay for the buyer's agent's commission. So with that, thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.